YouTube, we got a video about one of the grimiest. It's in fiction. Low key, my goat, the Hater Olympics. We got a video about the reverse of who you might ask. Flash. Oh, some would say I'm the reverse. Yeah, I'm locked. We have the biggest menace in comic history. As always, a pre-final look like. I still cannot stand how bro has such little subs. Only almost 3K subs, which still a lot of subs. But the views he gets on his videos, 22K. The first viewer effect video we watched, like 500K. Y'all gotta start supporting because that's dropping peak content. But that's besides the point. To give y'all some peak content, the main man slide. Slide onto your timeline. You feel me? Without further ado, let's just slide right in.
Throughout the history of haters, I think there's one that shines
The
bright
GOAT.
above the rest. From murdering his idol's wife in cold blood to
Nigga was shaking the head of it at super speed.
weaponizing time travel itself, journeying back in the past to kill that same man's mother, guaranteeing he'd end up in orphan. One man has dedicated his entire existence not to world domination, not to wealth,
He's just a
but
bad
to the
person too.
systematic
Like
and
he's a
deeply
consistent
personal
hater.
destruction of one man's happiness. But the most twisted part of this is that it doesn't begin with hatred. It starts with love, an
Admiration,
obsessive,
yeah.
all-consuming adoration that when rejected, curdled into the most potent form of hatred this universe has ever known. This isn't just the story of a villain. This is the story of how the Flash's biggest fan became comics' cruelest and most personal menace, the Reverse Flash. To truly comprehend Eobard's hatred for Barry, you must first
Good God.
understand the obsession that started all of this. Eobard's story begins decades from now in
Future,
the 25th
yeah.
century, and in this future, humanity has supposedly perfected itself, and in this clean world, a man named Eobard Thawne was in complete utter outcast. He was essentially a relic, a man obsessed with a bygone era that
past.
he found far
Yeah,
more
the Flash.
fascinating than his own. For Eobard, the Flash wasn't just a historical figure, he was practically
Dude.
a god to him, and this obsession
bro.
eventually becomes his life's work as he pours all of his time consuming any Flash media possible. And in some versions of his story, his obsession grows so deep that he actually gets plastic surgery trying to
Ew.
mold his own face into an exact replica of Barry Allen's. Thawne
Yeah.
didn't want to study the Flash, he wanted to literally be him,
Be the
consume
Flash,
his
yeah.
identity and be everything he was. But he does this because in Eobard's eyes, Barry is
It's
everything
perfect.
he isn't. He is beloved and
Perfect
special,
life,
and this
people love
burning
him.
passion that people have for him is
Right.
something that he deeply desires. But this obsession is exactly what would lead him to an eventual
Nerd type
scientific
obsession, I'm not
discovery
gonna
that
lie.
he would use for complete and utter chaos. Eobard was far from your typical obsessed fan. He
167 IQ, bro.
was by any measure a generational genius, and his life's work reached its apex when he made a discovery that would not only change his world, but the very fabric of the timeline. He would eventually locate a time capsule sent forth from the Age of Heroes, and inside, preserved against the decay of centuries, was one of Barry Allen's authentic Flash costumes.
One of the
With
OG
trembling
suits.
hands, Thawne examined the holy relic and found astoundingly that the suit's fibers still held residual traces of the Speed Force. His genius
Then he
allowed
was
him
able
to
to
take it a
replicate
step
it.
further and do the near impossible by successfully and dangerously replicating the exact chemical
Right.
accident that had first granted Barry Allen his connection to the Speed Force. But this time the experiment was different. When the lightning and chemicals hit him, they weren't just bonding with a good-hearted forensic scientist, they were bonding with a man already riddled with
Obsessed.
obsession and desperate
Yeah.
need for validation.
He's
In
also
that
done
moment
some
of
crazy
creation, he
evils,
didn't just
too.
tap into the Speed Force, he created its opposite by corrupting the Speed Force's pure kinetic
Yeah.
energy with
That's
his
like the
own
negative
powerful
force that he
negative
made.
emotions. And from this births a parasitic, cancerous version of this, the negative Speed Force.
Yeah.
And this dark, decaying energy was Thawne's own twisted mark on the Flash's legacy, a power that would
Mind you, even with that, nigga could have still been a hero. Like, your powers coming from like a corrupted version of Speed Force. Like, that's the biggest thing about hero stories in general. You always have a choice. But his choice was to keep on that path. Which, again, like taking viewer effect out, like that's his character, as he should, you know? But from the outside perspective, it's like he always had a choice.
was uniquely and destructively his own. With his newfound powers of the Speed Force, Eobard set out to enact on Barry's mission and continue
Be the
his legacy
Flash,
of
yeah.
saving people. But unfortunately, with the utopia that the 25th century was, there was no need for
No
people
need
to
for the
be
Flash.
saved. And this leads to Eobard framing accidents by causing danger and then
Causing
being the same exact
problems
person
to
to
fix,
save them.
yeah.
But in nothing short of a miracle,
And then
Barry
Barry-
Allen actually shows
Yup.
up in the 25th century. And immediately Eobard greets Barry, telling him that he is a huge fan. And Barry reciprocates that same sort of respect, actually asking if he wants to learn any tips, and Eobard obviously takes him up on the offer. And Eobard describes this time as the best moments of his life, as he was finally personally connecting with his biggest idol, with Barry making sure that Eobard knows that every second is a gift. But upon Barry's inevitable discovery that Eobard has been framing his saves, he has him thrown in jail, heartbroken by letting down Barry.
Because it's like he's been risking people's lives. Like, because no matter how smart you are, no matter how articulately you plan something, from the hero's perspective, emotional as it may be, it's like you could have messed it up. You could have got someone hurt. And you're not doing this to like save the world or anything. You're doing this for your own personal gain. And you're running that risk with human lives. It's like, I got to stop you from doing this. And on the empathetic type tip, I'm going to stop you from doing this because you're doing this with good intentions, despite there being personal gain involved. So like, if he actually were to accidentally GG someone, pack them up, it's like, I don't know what you've become, you know, because the admiration he was trying to get will become hatred. And you can't outrun murking someone. And then from then on, you're a villain.
He makes a promise to him to be better, and he really does, by working with a therapist and sharing his knowledge, dedicating his life to helping others. He ends up actually getting a job as the tour guide for the Flash Museum, which eventually works his way up to the curator. But even after fulfilling his promise to Barry, there was something that felt missing to him. He knew he needed to see Barry, but more than that, he needed Barry to see him, see how much he's improved. So he took...
it wasn't even the attempt to be the reverse. It was, I chose yellow because it was the color all of his sidekicks wore.
Cosmic treadmill back to the 21st century, wanting to go and see him again, even having the humility to know that it would be arrogant of him to show up with Barry's exact costume, so he changed it to yellow because it was the color that all of Flash's partners wore. And immediately after taking step into the past, Eobard is completely euphoric, describing it as heaven. And being too nervous to approach Barry, Eobard just watched him from afar for a while. I'm keeping this video pretty serious, but like seriously, what the fuck? But in his time of watching, he eventually sees Barry give Wally West a watch, letting him know that there's a special inscription on the back for him, saying every second is a gift. And after hearing
now he's heartbroken,
the same exact phrase that Barry told him in his future, he realized that the moment he thought they shared wasn't special, and that the Flash...
How is it not real though? Just because he can give advice, he's human, bro, and that's what it is. He sees him as a god, so it's like, oh, he just gave me the perfect advice I needed. Yeah, but look, Wally is crying, it looks like. So he gave him the advice he needed too. It's like two people can need the same advice, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's a quote he heard recently. It's just on top of his head.
Flash was not who he thought he was. Immediately after, he finds his way into the Flash Museum, where he fumbles upon the gravest discovery of his life. He discovered the identity of the Flash's greatest foe, the one that is fated to die by Barry's hands. His name was Eobard Thawne. And in that instance, he decided that he would spend every waking moment of his life not attacking the Flash, but attacking Barry Allen, making everything about his life as miserable as possible. Thawne's emotions were in a bit of a predicament though, because if he were to give in to his rage and kill Barry, especially as a child before he became the Flash, he would erase the very hero who inspired him, and in doing so, he would erase himself from time. So he went back in time and essentially became the cause of every inconvenience in Barry's entire life,
he's the cause,
stemming all the way down from minor things such as falling down the stairs and breaking his arm when he was a child, to remove...
See, like, say normally he was gonna trip. Instead, boom. Say his friend was gonna move away. Instead, I erased your friend from the timeline.
Moving his childhood best friend from existence, so that when he grew up as a kid, he was truly alone with nobody as an orphan. He tells him that he's the cause of an electrical fire that burned down his first house, even letting him know that he's the reason that his dog passed away, saying the back door was never really left open.
It was me, Barry. I jerked you off at super speed so it'd seem like you know.
And by far the worst thing that we figure out is one of the most important moments to Barry Allen's character. Eobard is the reason that Barry's mother is dead, and not only that, he also framed it to make it look like it was his father that killed her, making sure that he would lose out on both of his parents, while simultaneously forcing his father to pay for a crime that he didn't even commit. And in one of his final attempts to truly jeopardize Barry's life, he tells him that he's going to kill Iris and make sure that he never even remembers her existence, as she is the one singular thing that he has not been able to take care of in this timeline. And while there are other things, the singular thing that he has not been
Yeah, I've heard of this.
able to take care of in this timeline. And while there are other things, those are the main problems that Eobard has caused for Barry throughout his life, persistently trying to ruin his mental state and anyone associated with him day
not
by
even by
day.
accident,
But in Eobard's drunken crazed of rage, he not only wanted to make Barry's life as miserable as he possibly could, but he wanted to try and go back in time to improve his life. And these actions might be some of the most heinous I've ever heard of. Growing up, Eobard was extremely...
This is when I heard he did something with like his brother. He shook a girl's head at supersonic speed. He didn't want to go out with him. This is where you figure out he's like a hater in general.
And because of this, his parents thought it would be a wonderful idea for them to have a brother of him, to have someone to share common interests with and hopefully break out of his shell a bit. But for Eobard, the ideology of a brother brought about far more consequences than there were benefits. Stating for as long as his brother has lived, he's constantly taunted him. And because of his brother's existence, he believes that he's actually the reason that he was rejected from the Flash Museum when he applied to become a student, because his brother has taken too much time out of his life, putting him farther behind than his other peers. Until one day...
This is like blaming final boss. This is like, mind you, the fact that his dad like this is crazy. This runs in the family. This ugly ass, angry ass face.
Hey, Eobard suddenly didn't have a brother anymore. Going back in time and killing his own brother, retconning his life, giving himself more time to get into the Flash Museum. But unfortunately for Eobard, the problems of his life didn't stop after killing his brother. Because even though he got admitted to the Flash Museum, there was still someone there smarter than him that ended up taking the professor's spot from him. Until he went back in time and killed that professor as well, retconning his life for the second time now and leaving an open professor's spot at the Flash Museum. And with no one having more knowledge than him on the Speed Force, he garnished the name Professor Zoom. But yet again, Eobard was faced with more hardship because despite all of his knowledge, he was still unable to tap into the Speed Force. And with Eobard's parents actually worried about his health, they call in the museum counselor to let him know that he needs to suspend all further research until he went back in time and killed his own parents too. I mean, he seriously has no limits. And even then, after killing his brother, his parents, and anyone he can think of, he still was not able to tap into the Speed Force. Until eventually, for the first time in Eobard's life, he felt in love. But unfortunately, he was too late for that as well, being as she had a fiance. Until he went back in time and killed him as well. With her fiance out the way, they actually have a wonderful conversation, speaking for hours, and as Eobard thinks, they formed a great connection. But as you would assume, when he asked her to go to dinner, she lets him know that she's actually holding out in hope of the return of her fiance. So instead, he went back in time and killed the dude before he was ever even born, making it so that she had never been engaged or never even had a boyfriend, and the few that she did died within months of meeting. And as you probably guessed, even after all of his intervention, she still said that she wanted nothing to do with him. And for that reason, he went back in time to when she was just 5 years old, shaking her so much, giving her aphasia so that she couldn't speak anymore. I mean, seriously, the most sick and twisted things you could possibly...
Top 3 greatest ways to be a villain: have zero accountability, blame everyone else for everything bad that happens to you, and only focus on the negative.
Possibly imagine. But at its core, every last heinous action Eobard committed came from his adoration towards Barry, and the reason that this was the only way that he felt he could finally spend time with him. But I want to know what you guys... This was the only...
Do you hear this corny it threatens your wife, bro? He got some villainous time. You thinking about killing this nigga, bro? You're a parasite. Why do you keep fucking up my life? Because the only time you'll spend with
way that he felt he could finally spend time.
I hate this,
but I want to know what you guys think. Do you agree that Reverse Flash is probably the biggest menace in comics, or is there someone out there that I'm missing? Because if so, please.
There's people on his pedigree, but he's still top tier. So like for you to say he's the best is subjective. So I think I can I think it's okay. It's acceptable to generally say he's the best.
Please let me know in the comments, and I would love to get into this.
Hey man, shout out A and B, man. He the GOAT. And as always, appreciate y'all for watching. Make sure you stay happy, healthy, hydrated. You know what time to catch me next. Peace.